Why you keep attracting the same toxic people. Carl Jung's warning. You break free from one toxic relationship, and somehow, a year later, you're standing in almost the exact same situation. Different face, same pattern, the same kind of distance, the same kind of dishonesty, the same feeling of giving more than you receive. You start to wonder, is it bad luck? Is it just who's out there? Carl Jung would say no. He'd say something far more uncomfortable. He'd say you're not unlucky, you're unconscious. Today, we're going to look at why certain people keep showing up in your life on repeat, and the surprising part of yourself that might actually be inviting them in. Segment 1. The pattern isn't a coincidence. Here's something most people never stop to examine. When the same type of relationship keeps repeating, different person, same dynamic, we usually explain it the same way. I just have bad luck with people. They're everywhere, what can I do? Maybe I just attract the wrong type. Jung's work points somewhere else entirely. He proposed that human beings don't just react to people randomly. We're drawn, often without realizing it, toward dynamics that feel familiar, even when those dynamics hurt us. Not because we enjoy pain, because somewhere earlier in life, a part of us learned that this specific kind of relationship, this specific emotional rhythm is what connection looks like. And the unconscious mind doesn't ask, is this good for me? It asks, is this familiar? Familiar feels like home, even when home wasn't safe. Segment 2. The blueprint. You don't remember writing. So, where does this blueprint come from? Jung believed our earliest relationships, particularly in childhood, quietly install a kind of template, a felt sense of what love, attention, and connection are supposed to feel like. If love, growing up, often came bundled with inconsistency, a part of you may have learned that inconsistency is love. If attention had to be earned through overgiving or through managing someone else's moods, a part of you may have learned that this is what relationships require. Here's the unsettling part. None of this gets stored as a memory you consciously recall. It gets stored as a feeling, a sense of rightness that activates around certain types of people and stays silent around others. So when you meet someone calm, consistent, emotionally available, something in you might feel bored, unfamiliar, even slightly suspicious. And when you meet someone who triggers that old, familiar push-pull, something in you lights up and says, this feels like something. That feeling isn't always attraction. Sometimes it's recognition. Segment 3. Why awareness alone doesn't fix it. Here's where it gets genuinely frustrating for a lot of people. You can know all of this. You can read about it, understand it intellectually, even recognize the pattern happening in real time, and still feel pulled toward the same dynamic anyway. Why? Because Jung distinguished between the conscious mind, the part that reasons, analyzes, decides, and the unconscious, which operates on an entirely different timeline. It doesn't update just because you've gained new information. It updates through repetition, through new experience, through consistently choosing differently, even when the old pattern feels more comfortable. This is why willpower alone often isn't enough. You're not fighting a lack of knowledge. You're renegotiating with a part of your mind that's been running the same script for years, sometimes decades, and has no reason yet to trust that a new script is safe. Segment 4, the mirror. You don't want to look at? There's a deeper layer to this Jung kept returning to, what he called the shadow. The shadow isn't about other people at all. It's about the parts of yourself you've learned to disown. Fears, needs, wounds you've buried because they felt unacceptable or unsafe to feel. And here's the strange mechanism Jung pointed to. We often find ourselves drawn to people who externalize our own shadow for us. If you've buried a fear of not being good enough, you may find yourself repeatedly drawn to people who, one way or another, reflect that exact insecurity back at you, through criticism, distance, or subtle disregard. Not because you're choosing pain, because some unconscious part of you is still trying to resolve something old using someone new. The relationship isn't really about them. It's a stage where an old wound keeps trying to finish a scene it never got to complete. Segment 5, breaking the pattern, without blaming yourself. So, how do you actually interrupt this? Jung's answer wasn't self-blame. It was something closer to self-honesty. The first step isn't fixing the pattern, it's simply naming it. Noticing, without judgment, when a familiar feeling shows up around a new person. Asking, does this feel right because it's healthy or because it's familiar? Those are two very different questions, and most people have never been taught to separate them. The second step is tolerating discomfort on purpose. If healthy relationships feel boring or flat at first, that's not necessarily a sign something's wrong. It might be a sign your nervous system is finally encountering something it didn't grow up with: peace. And the third step, the hardest, is grieving the original wound directly, rather than asking new people to quietly fix it for you. The people in your present can't repair what happened in your past. They can only ever be themselves. Booked wisdom. Final thoughts. Here's the final thought worth sitting with. The people you keep attracting aren't random, and they're not proof that you're destined to keep repeating the same story. They're a message from a part of you that's been trying to get your attention for a long time. Jung believed that what we don't make conscious, we are doomed to repeat. But he also believed the reverse was just as true, and that the moment something becomes conscious, it loses its grip on us. So the next time you notice that familiar pull towards someone who feels like every difficult relationship before them, pause. Ask yourself what feels familiar about it. That question alone might be the first step out of the pattern. If this gave you something to reflect on, that's exactly what this channel is for. Subscribe to Booked Wisdom, because understanding your own patterns is the first step to finally changing them.